Hello, everyone, and welcome to Your Cup of Joy. I'm your host, Ariana Joy Christie, and I am so glad that you are here. This is a space to inspire, to learn, to grow, and to challenge. Get ready to fill your cup and spread a little joy along the way. Hello, welcome to the last episode of Your Cup of Joy for the year 2024. It seems so wild to me that I started this podcast in June of this year, and it's already the end of the year. It's just so wild to me. Time has flown. So many things have happened. And I just want to start by saying thank you. Thank you for making this dream of mine become a reality. Thank you for holding space to explore topics that maybe aren't mainstream per se, or that could be a little bit taboo. Thank you for allowing me a space to inquire about things that I'm interested in and that I think others may be interested in, and allow me the space to be vulnerable and open and honest. I know a lot of you know me from Instagram, where I'm sharing short form video of our life, but a podcast is just so different than that because you really get to explore things in long form and talk these things out. So just a huge thank you for being here, for listening, for giving your feedback, for rating and reviewing and following the podcast, for sharing episodes, and just for being open and honest with me too. I just feel like it is such a blessing, and it's so wonderful to be able to meet and connect with so many of you. So a huge, huge thank you. Now, to end this year, 2024, I want to just touch on some personal reflections. 2024 was a big year for me in many, many ways. I turned 30, which to me was this big thing. I think, when I was in my 20s, that was like part of my identity. I was this young girl who kind of the world was whatever I wanted it to be. And then when 30 came, I just was like, oh my gosh, now I have to have my shit together. And I don't know why it's like that in my head, but it just was. And so I really felt like, okay, now's my time to like be a grown up, do the things I need to do, take a back seat, which I'm not saying this is right. This was just kind of what I was thinking when I hit 30. And just, yeah, be an adult. And I think I was so wrong in that, but it just really hit me. And so I reflected a lot on that. 2024 was a very difficult year for me too. I have 3 young kids, and they all transitioned into programming this year. And so for me, it was like this identity crisis of who am I that I really, really struggled with, especially at the beginning of this year, where they were going to programming in the day. I didn't know who I was other than a mom. And even though I wear so many other hats, that was like my main identity. It was something I really had wanted my entire life. I always strived to be a mom. So I felt like I had attained this goal, this thing that I wanted to be my whole life. I really felt like my purpose in life was to be a mom. And then they were at school or at programming without me. And I thought like, oh no, who am I? What do I like to do? What are my hobbies? Like what am I outside of being a mom? And I started to even almost feel a bit like a fraud because I would tell my friends and I would share online like, you should be doing things for yourself. Prioritize yourself. The whole premise of this podcast is self-care. Do things for you. You're only the best version of yourself when your cup is full too. You can't help other people without helping yourself. Things I was preaching and saying and telling people to do. And then I couldn't do it myself. And I felt like, like what's wrong with me? Why can't I provide this support to myself? Why can't I do things that are for me? Why can't I even just go pee without like thinking, do people need me? I couldn't meet my own basic needs because I felt like I needed to be something for somebody else or for everybody else. And so I struggled a lot this year with understanding who I am, um, how to be a person outside of being a mother, and how to just support myself. So it has been a year. There have been highs and lows, no doubt. A lot of good things happened as well. But when I turned 30, I actually did this like reflection where it was the week leading up to my birthday, and I put a little story on my Instagram of, um, if you're in your 30s or above, what it is one piece of advice that you would give yourself in your 20s? Because I was kind of just reflecting on my life, reflecting on my 20s, and wanting to move forward into my 30s in a positive space with, insight and things that I had learned in my 20s. And so I want to go over some of those as a reflection of this year, because a lot of these pieces of information or pieces of advice stood out to me a lot, and I continue to live by them, or at least try to live by them most of the time. So I'm going to go over some of them. The first one being my favorite. And in fact, we did a little activity at work, at my real estate work, where we said, like, what's one sentence that you kind of live by, or one piece of advice that you might give your younger self? And that piece of advice is no is a complete sentence. Let that sink in. No is a complete sentence. I used to think, as a recovering people pleaser, that if I ever said no to something, I needed to give a reason. And that is just not the case. It doesn't matter the situation you're in. It doesn't matter if it's a relationship or a friendship or yourself or work or anything. If you are saying no, that's enough. You don't have to do things that you don't want to do. And it's something that I do struggle with. Like, I'm not a professional at saying no by any means. I would like to be better at it. But it just really is something that I'm trying to do more of. And I'm trying to realize that I don't have to give an explanation to everybody for everything. If I don't want to do something, it's okay. So you can take that and run with it in many different ways, and you can apply it to many different situations in life, which I have. But I just really try to remember that when I'm doing something and the thought in my head is, why am I doing this? I really remember back to no. No is a complete sentence. I don't have to do this. Why am I doing this? And so I'm trying to continue to live by that, and to know that I am the decision maker of my life. I can decide what I want to do and what I don't want to do. And of course, there are things that you have to do that you don't want to do. You know what I mean? Like, there really are some things that are non-negotiables. Like, okay, you got to pay your bills. I should probably save my receipts. I should, like, those kind of things that are boring that you don't want to do. I don't want to go to the dentist, but I will. Those are all things that maybe are aside from this. But when it's something that is not serving you and something that you're not required to do, say no. And say no and leave it at that. No explanation. Next, somebody wrote this in that little box when I said, what is advice that you would give yourself in your 20s? And I absolutely love it. Just trigger warning, I'm going to swear. I have a potty mouth. It's totally fine. If you don't like it, just scroll past a little bit maybe. But one day, you're not going to give a fuck. I think I'm at that point. I'm in my 30th year of life. I'll be 31 in a couple months. And there are so many things that I cared so much about that I just needed to let go of and not give a fuck. Things that don't matter. For instance, here's some examples. I was a control freak. I had the twins. I had imagined being a mom. I knew what I wanted that to be like. I had visions in my mind of what it would be like. And then I realized, holy shit, my house is a mess. I don't have dinner on the table. I am not meant to be a housewife. I'm not very good at it. And I'm failing. And then I realized it doesn't matter. I literally don't give a fuck. Like, yes, I care that my house should be clean sometimes, but on the everyday, like when the twins were napping twice a day, I would literally, at the beginning of my motherhood journey, clean up every time they napped. Like they'd play with toys and then I would put them away. And then they'd bring the same toys out and then I'd put them away. And then they'd bring the same toys out. And I was thinking, why am I doing this? So I let it go. I said, I don't give a fuck. I am going to clean one time a day when they go to bed. That's when I'll tidy the toys. That's when they'll be put away. But when they're going to continue playing with them all day, don't care. Another thing was getting them dressed. Some days, getting two children fed and dressed and on their schedules and making it to an appointment was too much. They can wear their pajamas out when they're 6 months old. A onesie is an appropriate thing to wear. These are just little tiny examples of things that I used to stress about all the time. And I think when I realized that I don't have to care so much about it, I don't have to give a fuck, things got easier. And I could put that energy towards things that really did matter to me, like quality time with my family, like having nutritious food for my kids, like having some time to bake. So things like packing the kids' lunches. Yes, I want them to have nutritious food. No, it doesn't have to look so perfect every single day. They're going to eat their food and they're going to be happy and they're going to be fulfilled. There are things that you can let go of so that you have more capacity for the things that really, really matter to you. And I think that's what I take from the one day you're not going to give a fuck narrative. The next one was, it's okay if you aren't where you thought you'd be. So this one really hit me, especially at the beginning of this year when I thought I was so like down in the dumps. I was not feeling good about anything in my life. And I just thought like I'm supposed to be doing other things. I'm supposed to be doing more than this. Who am I? What am I doing? And this just hit me. Like we have these false narratives in our head. We have these false expectations that nobody else is putting on us except us. Like, oh, I want to do this by this date. Like, why? Why do I think that I have to do this? Why do I think that my house has to be clean 24/7? Why do I think that I have to have it look like it's out of a magazine? Those are not real things that anybody else thinks except me. So it's okay if you're not where you thought that you'd be, whether it's a relationship or a job or a health goal or anything like that. If you are not there where in your head you think you might want to be right now, it is okay because you are where you're meant to be. Life is a journey and we're meant to experience all of it, the good, the bad, the ugly. And that is so difficult to hear and understand when you're in the thick of it. I know, because if somebody told me that at the beginning of this year, I would not be happy and I would not take it well. But you are where you're meant to be. There is a plan, and this is a journey, and you are going to make it to where you are meant to be. And right now, where you are is where you're meant to be. And I just continue to tell myself that some days when I don't feel so productive, or maybe I didn't meet all of the things on my to-do list, I think, oh, I'm a failure. Like I didn't do this right. No, like I did. It's okay. It's okay to slow down. It's okay to not be exactly where I thought I might want to be because I'm where I'm meant to be. On to the next one that flows very well from that point is slow down. I had a very amazing conversation with Alana a couple of episodes ago, maybe a few episodes ago, where she introduced this coaching method that she's using that's all about slowing down. And I just have been thinking of it ever since. We live in such a fast-paced world where things are going, 100 miles a minute. You sign your kids up for activities, you want to have a hobby, you are working, all of a sudden it's like 7 o'clock at night, the kids have to get to bed. Like everything is a rush. And I find myself in that all the time where it's busy, busy, busy. Things are happening. I'm not doing enough. I'm feeling like I'm falling behind. I can never keep up. I'm failing. If you are part of this narrative, if you have this happening in your head or in your day-to-day life, you're not alone because I think everybody is feeling it, especially at this time of year. the holidays. Just everything is so fast and you never get to sit and enjoy. So slow down. I'm going to take that advice for myself, and I've been trying to slow down. Why am I doing all of these extra things? Why do I take the extra things on? Like, yes, if they're fulfilling for you or if it's something that you really want to do, amazing, great, do it. But there is literally no shame in taking some extra time for yourself. Drink your coffee while it's hot. Sit in the car for an extra few minutes if you need that to stay sane. Make sure that you pee in peace. You don't have to be talking to someone or doing something else while you're just going pee. Like, I find myself constantly just like, oh, I'll go later. I'll go later. Like, take care of your needs. Slow down. I said to my husband the other day, I don't know the last time that I took a lunch break, unless it was a meeting. When have I actually sat down to eat? Normally I'm eating while I am walking, while I'm packing my bag, while I am doing emails. I'm always doing something else while I'm eating. Why? Why am I doing that? Slow down. It's like I almost don't feel worthy of having a break because I'm not doing all the things that in my head I want to do. And I think that that actually is doing the opposite. It's inhibiting my ability to be productive and be my best self because I haven't taken care of myself. So this is your sign. Slow the F down. I'm telling myself, but I'm also telling you. Prioritize your health and well-being. This is like a huge thing for me this year. I have probably said this 50 times this year that I can feed my children. I can make sure they're dressed. I can make sure that they're in bed on time. I can take care of them. And for some reason, I can't take care of myself. It's like I cook them this nutritious meal. They eat, but I'm so busy that I'm not sitting down and eating, that I miss out on family dinner. And then it's the end of the night and I'm like, oh, I didn't eat. I didn't drink enough water. Did I take my vitamins? I don't know, but I know for sure the kids did. It's like we prioritize other people, but how can we continue to take care of them if we're not taking care of ourselves? I also think it's so selfless that as parents, and especially as mothers, not to stereotype, but just saying, we do prioritize our kids. Our kids are our priority and they should be. I'm not saying they shouldn't. I think it's very important that our kids are our priority. If we want to prioritize our kids, we need to give them the best version of ourselves. My health and my well-being is important if I want to be everything that I can be for them. And so I'm trying to change that narrative that doing things for me is actually going to impact them tremendously, in fact. So prioritize your health and well-being. And even if it's just a little thing, like sometimes I think about that sentence and I think, oh my gosh, I'm too far gone. How am I going to get back on track? I can't. If you just focus on one small thing, drink an extra glass of water every day. One thing. Drink some water before your coffee in the morning. I'm guilty of that. I go straight to the coffee maker. Eat something nutritious. Prioritize sitting down to eat. These are all little things that I'm going to try to do to prioritize my health and well-being. But start small. It shouldn't be that hard. It shouldn't take over and all consume you. It should just be something that you want to implement and then that it feels right, I think is important. It's never too late to start. It's never too late to start. That hit me. When somebody said that, I was like, oh, sometimes I think like, oh, I'm 30, I'm an adult. Like I can't have a hobby now. Like, we're signing our kids up for sports. And I'm like, oh, the world is your oyster. You can do anything you want. Whatever sport you want to play, let's try it. Let's try everything. And then I'm like, oh, I'm 30. I'm too old. Oh, I want to try this new thing. Probably not. Oh, I shouldn't sign up for a course. I can think of 100 excuses not to do things for myself and 100 reasons why for my kids. So treat yourself like your kids a little. It's never too late to start. If you want to do something, do it. If you want to take a pottery class, I've always thought that's cool, do it. If you want to test out aerial yoga, try. If you want to do Zumba or dance, do it. Whatever your hobby is, whatever something that you have always wanted to try doing, do. It's literally never too late to start. So I challenge you, try something new this coming year. Just one thing. And if it leads to something else, great. And if it's something that you love and you continue on, even better. And if you hate it, at least now you know. It's never too late to start. Just do the damn thing. I sometimes have things in my head that live in my head that I can't let go of. I just want to do it. I want to do it so bad. But I think of a million excuses not to. I don't have enough time. I don't have enough energy. How am I going to? It's not important for our family. Like, there are so many excuses. Just do it. Just do it. There's a couple things brewing in my head that I'd like to do. So stay tuned. But just do the damn thing. If you've been thinking about it, take the leap. Do it. Be comfortable being your true self. This is something that is very hard for me. I don't always love to be vulnerable. I think I like to have my shit together, for lack of a better word. Like, I like to know that the things I'm doing are important and that I'm doing them well. And if I'm not, or if something bad happens, or maybe I'm having a bad day, or I don't feel great, I don't like to talk about it. I don't like to be vulnerable. I don't like to cry. Probably talk to my therapist about those things, but I just have a hard time being comfortable with that. And so I'm trying to be more comfortable with being exactly who I am, and being confident in that. You know, I tell my kids all the time, like, you are who you were made to be. My kids will say to me, Mom, I am who I am. And I freaking love that. And I want to be like that. I want to be who I am and not ever be ashamed of it. So let's all try to be a little more comfortable with being true to ourselves and who we are. Live your damn life and do all of the things. I want to live a year. I saw it. Shoot, I forget where I saw it. I saw a thing where somebody just said yes all the time to everything for whatever period of time they said. I want to be like that. Just do all the things. Try new things. I am so good at creating excuses in my head of things that might make me feel uncomfortable and not doing them. Just do it. Just try. What's the worst thing that happens? Maybe that's a little challenge for myself. Just say yes. If somebody asks you to do something, do it. Because what's the worst thing that happens? Do more for yourself. So the whole premise of this podcast, Your Cup of Joy, was to talk about self-care and prioritizing our needs. We need to do that. And it's so hard to do, especially when you're busy, especially when you have kids or other people who are dependent on you, or maybe you're taking care of your family or your parents or a friend or any of that. Like, other things come first. And I think that we need to prioritize ourselves. So I'm going to do one thing for me a day. And it can be something little, like drinking a hot coffee. It can be just taking a few seconds to breathe, or maybe scroll your phone. It can be watching an episode of your favorite reality TV show, or even just 10 minutes of it. Start small, but I challenge you to do something for yourself every day. And if that sounds like too much, try every other day. But just do something that makes you smile or makes you feel good or fulfills you. Just once a day. Start small. Trust your decisions. I, especially since becoming a mom, have realized how important our intuition is. Trust your gut. I say it all the time to new moms when I'm talking to them, especially NICU moms. Since our journey in the NICU, nobody knows what your baby needs more than you. Trust your gut. So the same thing goes for yourself. Nobody knows what you need more than you. You know yourself. You have a relationship with yourself. Whatever you need, do. And trust. I think so often we think of society or other people's opinions or what other people may say, and we go off of that, even though it's not what we actually feel, or what's actually like in our gut. And I think we need to trust ourselves more. You know, we were wired to have these feelings, to know how to act or what to do. So do it. Trust yourself. If you feel like something is not aligning with you or your values, back out. And if you feel inclined to do something, do it. Speak up for yourself and trust yourself and your decisions. I can't stress it enough that we need to quit second guessing ourselves based on other people's opinions and just focus on what we want and trust that. Make those decisions for you. Something very, very, very important that I try to live by, and sometimes I'm not great at, is to hold yourself to a standard of grace, not perfection. It's so easy to want everything to be perfect, to want to look a certain way, to want to feel a certain way, to want to do things a certain way, to put on this front that you have it all figured out and that your life is perfect and your house is clean and your kids are fed healthy, nutritious meals every night, and that you don't ever forget to write in your journal every day, and that you have your shit together. But I promise you, perfection is not attainable. Nothing is ever going to be actually perfect, okay? Just think about that. And instead, be gracious to yourself. We are our worst critics. I can criticize everything I do, every piece of me. I'm sure I do almost every day. But the things I tell myself, I would never say to the people that I love. I would never blame things on them the way I blame myself or tear them apart the way that I do to myself. So why do we do this to ourselves? Hold yourself to a standard of grace and not perfection. Grace is this word that I have sat on for a very long time because I'm very harsh with myself and not gracious in any sense of the word, I don't think. And it's just something that I preach. I tell people all the time, be gracious to yourself, love yourself. And I never do. So I'm trying very hard to have a standard of grace instead of perfection. And it kind of goes back to letting things go and not giving a fuck, you know? Just be gracious. Things are going to happen. You're going to make the wrong decision. Something's not going to line up the way that you wanted it to go. Your house is going to be a little messy. Maybe you don't get to your laundry or your dishes. Be gracious to yourself. Show yourself some love. Pretend that you're talking to your best friend or someone that you really care about. Don't talk to yourself in a negative way. One of the things that I've reflected on a lot since the summer, especially, I was struggling a lot with my body and how I looked. And, you know, in the summertime, you're wearing shorts. I didn't feel comfortable in shorts. Bathing suits, didn't feel comfortable in a bathing suit. That's for sure. And Zoe Potter, actually, who I had on the podcast, that's a really great episode if you want to go back and listen, if you haven't yet. But she really encouraged me through her posts on social media to be comfortable in my skin and be comfortable with who I was, and that a bikini body is just a body in a bikini. And that will always stick with me. And so the sentence and the phrase and the words that I'm trying to live by is, don't worry what others think. But to take that to the next level is, other people's opinion of me is actually none of my business. I'll say it again. Other people's opinion of me or other people's opinion of you is actually none of your business or none of my business. And I've been telling myself that a lot because sometimes I think like, oh, what do other people think? It's so easy to get caught in that mindset of, did that person talk about me? What did they say? Are they going to think that this outfit isn't good? Are they going to think that I look bad in this bathing suit? Like, their opinion is none of my business. It also doesn't matter, but really, truly, it's none of my business. Let it go. Who cares? Don't worry what they think. They don't have the full story. They don't know you the way that you know you. And it's none of your business. So don't think about it anymore. Again, I know that is so much easier said than done, but we just don't need to listen to that negative, made up stuff in our head, because half the time these people aren't even thinking it. We're making it up in our head. And it's easy to do, but we have to let that go. So remember, other people's opinion is none of our business. And the last thing that I've been thinking about a lot this year, and will continue to think a lot about, is quality over quantity. And I have been thinking about that in many different avenues of life. First thing is friendships, obviously, relationships when you are busy, when you have a career and you have kids and you have other responsibilities. It's very difficult to maintain relationships. Adult friendships are hard. I've talked about that online quite a lot. There are so many excuses of other things to do than to make time for people outside of your family and outside of your kids. But it's important too. That being said, the quality of those relationships is what matters and not the quantity. It doesn't matter how many friends you have, it's that you have somebody that you can talk to. So, quality over quantity in terms of relationships. Also, I've been thinking about it in terms of things. And that might sound like materialistic, but like I just want less things, uh, but of better quality. Like I've been following some fashion influencers and bloggers and things. And like, I don't want to participate that much in fast fashion. I want to have a capsule wardrobe and have things that fit me and feel comfortable that I like, but less of it. Then I have less decisions to make. I can dress myself easily. Quality over quantity. Same with things at home, decor, kids' toys, all of that. I'm trying to declutter my life in all senses, relationships and things. So quality over quantity. Think about it. Um, so I think that there is so much power in celebrating small wins and practicing gratitude, especially at the end of a year. So these are some kind of reflections um, on those things. And I think sometimes when we think about like, hey, so what's the best thing that happened to you this year? It can seem overwhelming. Like, I don't know, what did I do this year? Maybe you can feel like down on yourself that you didn't achieve the things you wanted to, or some of the bigger goals that you had. Maybe it's amazing to reflect and you think, oh, I got this prestigious award I've always wanted to get, or I really hit this goal, or I got a raise at work, or whatever. It's important to think of the things that we're grateful for and to celebrate those wins. But I want to switch gears a little bit and focus on the small things. Some days, especially in motherhood, just making it through the day is a win. Just getting through the chaos, a win. Getting all the kids to bed in time, that's a win. Signing your kids up for an activity and getting the time slot you wanted, huge win. So celebrate the small things. And try to practice this little bit of gratitude every day for just one small thing. You know, oh, I drank a coffee hot today. That's a win for me. Or I didn't forget my kids' snow pants at school today. That can be a win. Celebrate the small things because it will change your mindset and it will set you up for success. There are also things that are bigger that you should be proud of. And I think it's important to say those things. So, really, take time to reflect on the things that you are proud of, big and small. I want to talk about some 2024 takeaways and intentions. This year has taught me to be much more gracious to myself. At the beginning of the year, I was very hard on myself. Many times I even, in a meltdown, would say, like, I hate myself. I'm not happy with who I am. I'm not happy with what I'm doing. I was in a very low place. And I learned that I need to be gracious. I need to know that today, even if I failed at 5 things that I wanted to do, I did one thing. I made it through the day. I ate a healthy meal. Maybe I went for a walk or made a phone call or connected with somebody. Celebrate those wins and be gracious with yourself. I want to practice what I preach. I want to take all the things I said today and do them. I want to prioritize myself. I say it all the time. Like I said, this podcast is literally all about self-care. And some days, even some weeks, I find that I just push that off and I don't take care of myself. So I'm trying to take care of myself and to prioritize myself. And I think something to note too is that as moms, especially, sometimes we say like, oh, I went to the grocery store today. Like that was my self-care. No, that's something that had to be done. Do something for you, not for the household, not for the family, for you. And don't mix those things up because I think then we're falling short. I wrote to put myself first, even if it's only sometimes. So yes, I'd like to reach for the stars and say, I'm going to do something for myself every day. And that's what I aspire to do. And I think you should too. But if it's just every other day, that's okay. If it's once a week and we're starting small like that, that's totally cool too. Take one step towards doing something for yourself, even if it's only sometimes. And another thing is that there's no reward for doing it alone. My girlfriend Marissa told me this. We had a great chat on the podcast also. You can scroll back to that one. But nobody at the end of the day is going to say, look at you. You did it all by yourself. Good job. Nobody's going to say that to you. Nobody cares that you did it by yourself. Ask for help. Accept help when people are willing. Find help. Don't do it by yourself because you don't need to. And because it's exhausting and it's boring and it's lonely. I think it's very easy to just say, oh, I'll just do it. I'm just going to get it done. I am so guilty of saying like, well, it's easier for me to just do it. Then I don't have to explain how. Or I like it done a certain way, so I'm just going to do it myself. There is no reward for doing it yourself. Give yourself grace, trust somebody else, and accept help. That is something I need to learn and do better, and I'm going to try. So at the end of the year, I like to set an intention for the next year. And I'm still thinking of my word or my intention for 2025. But my girlfriend asked me yesterday to think of one word that I would want to focus on for the next year. And it could change, but the first thing that came to mind, and I wrote it down because it was like immediate in my head, was peace. I have been living a life of chaos. I have been running around like a chicken with my head cut off, doing a million things and never actually getting to enjoy those things or be peaceful without having other things running around in my head. So my word, I think, for 2025 is going to be peace. And I think sometimes when we think of peace, we're like, oh, so you're just going to sit around and listen to the birds or something. No, I think I can still do many things. I think I can still meet my goals and be peaceful. I don't think that they need to be mutually exclusive. I realized that I never really take a break. Like I said, like I never sit down to eat lunch. I am always rushing to go pee. I never just sit and enjoy. So I think I want to be more intentional and practice more peace. So peace is my word or my intention for 2025. And I encourage you to think of a word, maybe the first thing that pops in your head when I say, like, what is your intention? One word for 2025, and write it down. I think there's power in actually physically writing it down and remember that word and try to live and strive towards that word as that being your intention. And if you want to share that with me, send me a DM or write a comment somewhere in my messages and tell me your word so that it's written down, it's spoken, it's your intention, and we can live that out for 2025. I want to end by saying a huge, huge thank you to all of you for helping me have this beautiful space. Like, this has become such a beautiful space for me, and it wouldn't be possible without you who are listening and supporting every listen, every share, every download, every kind message, every piece of feedback. It really all means the world to me. And this podcast has just become this beautiful space of encouragement for me, a space to talk about how I'm feeling, to explore things that are of interest to me. So thank you for allowing me a safe space to feel like I can be vulnerable, to share, to learn. And thank you for being a part of it. It really, truly means the absolute world to me. So as we close this year, I hope that you give yourself credit for how far you've come. Remember that joy does not come from doing it all. It comes from being present for what matters most to you. So here's to a new year full of love, joy, prioritizing yourself, and most importantly, giving yourself grace. So please write your intention down. Show yourself some grace, show yourself some love and kindness, and enjoy the last of 2024. I think 2025 is going to be one for the books. Happy New Year. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Your Cup of Joy. I hope you enjoyed today's conversation as much as I did. And if this episode resonated with you, or if you've been loving this show, I'd really appreciate it if you could take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you are listening. Your support helps the podcast grow, it helps it reach more people, and it means the absolute world to me. So keep filling your cup with joy, and I will see you next week.